Now, how do you make Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi look tough? Well, you put them against a thin-skinned idiot like Donald Trump. Now, early on Wednesday, President Trump had decided to walk out of a meeting, or more like stormed out of a meeting with Chuck and Nancy after they hurt his delicate little feelings. Now, according to a report posted in the New York Times, the president blew up a scheduled meeting with Democratic congressional leaders on Wednesday, lashing out at Speaker Pelosi for accusing him of doing a cover-up and declaring that he could not work with them until they stopped investigating him. I can't work with you. Stop your investigations. Stop it now, Nancy. Awesome. Oh, he's throwing such a fit. In fact, according to a Democrat that was there, he marched out into the Rose Garden demanding that Democrats get the phony investigations over with. He said that they could not legislate and investigate at the same time. Quote, "We're going to go down one track at a time." And what track is that? I mean, right now, it feels like we're riding the crazy train. And not the fun one from Ozzy. Like the crazy, crazy train. The not good crazy train. So, anyway. It appears that somebody's having a sad. And it's awesome. Now, this confrontation, according to the Times, came on a day when pressure over possible impeachment has raised temperatures on both sides of the aisle. I love how they phrase that. Pelosi had arrived at the White House for a session with the president, set to talk about infrastructure, shortly after a meeting with House Democrats on Capitol Hill to talk about impeachment. She emerged from that meeting with Democrats accusing Mr. Trump of a cover-up. Well, yes, a cover-up would be correct. I mean, look, if you obstruct justice, by definition, you are engaging in an effort to cover something up, to prevent investigators from finding something else, possibly criminal behavior. In this case, of course, it refers to President trying to stop Don McGahn from testifying in front of Congress. Because, Democrats are really interested in getting the perspective of Donald Trump's former counsel. For some reason, Trump does not want that to happen. Gee, I wonder why. Very curious. Which, of course, led to much salt. When Pelosi and Schumer had arrived at the White House, according to the Times, Mr. Trump walked into the cabinet room and did not shake anyone's hand or sit in a seat, according to a Democrat informed about the meeting. He said he wanted to advance legislation on infrastructure, trade, and other matters, but that Ms. Pelosi had said something terrible by accusing him of a cover-up, according to the Democrat. Classic Trump. You said something mean to me, and I'm not going to do anything. Okay, well, go ahead and fold your arms like a petulant child while your stupid trade war hurts your own voters, your own constituents, which, of course, we're all supposed to be your constituents because you're supposed to be the president for everyone. But even the president of the people that you want to be president for, in this case, the farmers that voted for you, your trade war is killing them, is destroying them, and you don't care. You're just going to sit there and go, I'm not interested in talking with Chuck and Nancy. Not even about infrastructure. Yeah, that's smart. Now they continue. After just about 3 minutes, he left the room before anyone else could speak. From there, he headed to the Rose Garden, where a lectern had been set up, with a sign that said, "No collusion, no obstruction," fun, and gave statistics intended to show that he had cooperated with the special counsel, Robert Mueller III. Oh, yeah, he's great way of cooperating with the investigation. He didn't even sit down for an in-person interview. And, of course, I believe it was Don McGahn himself who counseled against that strongly because of the belief that Trump would bring him down. Himself down and McGahn. Because he would basically, it was something, they were talking about a perjury trap, right? So if you were to testify, it'd be a perjury trap. Well, no, why would it be a perjury trap unless you intended to perjure yourself? Well, that's really strange reasoning. Basically admitting that Donald Trump can't help himself but lie. And that would get him in trouble. And so that's why he couldn't sit down with Mueller. And it actually worked. And he ended up not getting an in-person interview with Donald Trump. Crazy, right? He just gets break and after break after break after break. It's amazing. Nobody gets as many breaks as Donald Trump, and he still manages to screw everything up. Then again, we're going to go back to the article here. Now, they noted that, quote, instead of walking in happily to a meeting, I walk in to look at people that have just said that I was doing a cover-up. Mr. Trump said, I don't do cover-ups. So that's a quote from him. Okay, you don't do cover-ups. Well, what about your medical records? What about your school transcripts that you were hiding? We can't tell if you were a good student or not. I'm a fantastic student. That's why I will not release my college transcripts. You don't get to see them because of how awesome they are. That's not a cover-up? That's not a cover-up. Come on, man. Oh. Even better. What about his taxes? He still won't release his taxes. What we have right now is basically like copies that were leaked of 10 years of his taxes, which showed that he lost over $1 billion because he's an idiot. No wonder he wants to hide his taxes. But no, I don't do cover-ups. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? No. Now, following this attempt of a meeting, a 3-minute meeting, I guess, Pelosi said this, quote, he just took a pass, and it just makes me wonder why he did that. In any event, I pray for the president, and I pray for the United States of America. Okay. 2 things. We actually do know why. He's a petulant man-child. Why not just say it? It's not like we're not all thinking it. Even Republicans are thinking the same thing. Come on. I kind of hate this fake respect, right, thing that we have. We have to act respectful, and we can't actually tell the truth. We can't actually say that somebody's lying when they're actually lying. Like, you can't do that. This decorum drives me crazy. And secondly, I'll pray for you. Well, I've heard that before. That's actually super passive-aggressive. But, see, here's the thing. Even though that is super passive-aggressive, why can't Pelosi just be aggressive-aggressive? I would love to see that. Oh, but see, Nancy Pelosi is only aggressive-aggressive when she's going after progressives. You see how that works? So she's only going to go after people who are pushing for actual progress within her own party, but she can't be mean and nasty towards the president of the United States, who is a mean and nasty person himself. I'd love to see her come out swinging. Like, oh, I can't believe Donald Trump got his feelings hurt, and that's why he's not willing to meet with us to do infrastructure to fix our crumbling roads and bridges. So he'd rather sit and pout and about a completely unrelated matter, the investigations into his possible criminal wrongdoing, and let you continue to drive on dangerous bridges and roads that are falling apart. He's putting your safety behind his ego and his feelings. Is that the president that you want? Is that the person that you want leading? Is that the actions of the leader of the free world? Do your job, Mr. President. Do your job. That's what I wish Pelosi would say. Schumer had a slightly different reaction. He said, quote, what happened in the White House would make your jaw drop. Okay, that's a little bit better. And he suggested the real reason Trump blew up the meeting was that he had not come up with a way to pay for the enormous spending package and therefore was looking for excuses. Let me give you his quote before I kind of break down why I think that's wrong, but better, but it's still wrong. He said, quote, hello, there were investigations going on 3 weeks ago when we met, and he still met with us. But now, when he was forced to say how he would pay for it, he ran away, and he came up with this pre-planned excuse. Now, again, that is a little bit stronger than Pelosi. Less passive-aggressive, a little bit more aggressive-aggressive. Great. But, again, here's why it's wrong. He puts too much credit in Donald Trump's intellect. Like, oh, yeah, he couldn't come up with a way to kind of spin it, whatever, because he can't afford to pay for it. No, I don't think Donald Trump worries at all about how he's going to pay for anything. Trump's not that smart. He didn't have to figure out a way to pay for his tax cuts, and he still ended up doing them. He hasn't figured out a way to pay for anything, and he still tries to do it. I mean, he's not a smart person. Now, nobody asked, of course, how you're going to pay for tax cuts. They just accepted, oh, yeah, tax cuts are paid for themselves, of course. I mean, on that, you did have a lot of Democrats that did come out and say, hey, wait a minute, how are you going to pay for that? That's fine, I guess. But they're not as strong when they do that as they are for when a progressive comes up with, for example, Medicare for all or, free college. Then they're all like, oh, how are you going to pay for that? How are you going to pay for that? But the taxes, they're not as aggressive. And I wish they were. But again, they're part of the elite. So they don't want those things like Medicare for all. And so they always ask that question. It's that right-wing framing. But anyway, now, at least when it came to Chuck Schumer, that was a little bit more of a challenge to Trump than Pelosi. And despite it being kind of milquetoast and a little bit weak, in my opinion, they still end up coming out of this looking better than Donald Trump, bailing on this meeting because somebody hurt his fragile little fifis. Now, I want to leave you with one last hilarious quote from Donald Trump that kind of shows you just how much projection he's doing and how hurt he really is. He said, quote, "These people were out to get us. The Republican Party and President Trump, they were out to get us. So here's the bottom line. There was no collusion. There was no obstruction. We've been doing this since I've been president. And actually the crime was committed on the other side." That is more classic, ridiculous projection from our man-child-in-chief. We got to get him out. Hey guys, hopefully you enjoyed that free video. Now I'm going to have to ask you a favor. Between the demonetization and the YouTube algorithm messing around with view counts, etc., we're having a hard time adjusting to the new YouTube reality, which is where you guys come in. See, we have a Patreon, patreon.com/TYTNation, set up to help us rely on you guys, the viewers, instead of big corporate ads. Look, you know the show. You know I'm not in favor of big corporations anyway. So help us transition away from relying on the ad model to pay the bills and sign up to be a patron, patreon.com/TYTNation. That goes a long way to help us keep the lights on. And you guys will know that you're supporting independent progressive media.